Streaming. And then we're going to start streaming. Oh my god, there's so many things. Welcome. All right, so we're going to do a few back window examples. Got my mic? Okay. Streaming setup. Stop. Uh-oh. That's probably gonna copy, modify, paste. Okay. Start streaming. Hopefully it doesn't just end. We good? Minus probably audio. No, that does work. Great. Now we'll open that. And then we're going to hit. I guess we'll leave Facebook out of it. Because as soon as I click modify, no, click start. No, it worked. How's it going? Oh, it's going. Okay, so that part's working, which is good. Let's minimize that. And then I gotta do one more check here. Now. Oh, is it not connected now? Ugh. Yeah, this crashes too often. I don't think we can do Facebook. I guess we'll just do Instagrams, TikTok, and YouTube. How many cards can you do with a 36 by 50? You're going to be able to do 4. The sides and the rear, no full windshields. You'll get about 4 out of that. Modify. I'm a sucker for punishment. Here we go. When's the right time to buy a plotter? I hand cut, definitely not perfect yet. As soon as you have the budget for it, it's totally personal preference. They can be used as an assist to kind of help you out. They're not something to depend on, though. Not really. But like a plotter with good software, you can recover from a lot of mistakes pretty quickly. So it just depends on what your budget is. A couple grand for the software, 150, or a couple grand for the machine, 150 a month for the software. It pays back itself pretty quickly. What software? Use Core. Tips for tinting a back window on a VW Bug. I don't have a VW Bug here, so that's a little hard to comment on. Okay, we're good. We're okay. We're doing a stress test right now with the sheer amount of like streaming sources and stuff what we're doing. So we're live on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, which is pretty cool. I just want to look at that kind of stuff afterwards. But in the meantime, we're going to do a back window. I have some stuff here that I want to explain about. Where's the lock for this thing? There we go. I have some stuff here that I can go over on what we're going to be using. couple different shrinking examples, insulation examples, and then I also got to fill up my keg. So I'm going to pause on doing that for a second, but let me grab, we need a heat gun as well, and then we also need this. So let's bring this over here. For the very beginning, I guess I don't really need to swap out my slip solution, but I'm gonna bring these over here. So heat gun, extension cord, stay. Okay, there we go. Wish my chat was just a little bit better. Any tips for doing right pricing for customers? I have 3 months on doing window 10. What? Any tips for pricing? Pricing's always a little tricky to figure out. A good way to kind of see what potential is to call around just your area and get some quotes. That's probably the best thing to start with, just to kind of get an idea of some ideas that you could charge, because that's what customers are doing. All right, so first step, we got our spray solution here. So this is just our soapy water mix. I'm gonna use that to clean off really any back window. Back windows, grime, all that kinds of stuff, clean up pretty easily. And then we have a tri-edge scrub pad that we're gonna use. Just use some type of glass-safe scrub pad. I like these ones kind of the best because you get, like, you can take these pads off, put them back on, flip them around, get some more use out of them, and you get an actual like plastic pad to give a little bit more pressure. So we're just gonna take that, scrub this off. How do you build a YouTube following? YouTube's a tough one. Actually, all of them are tough. Oh yeah, and I need one more thing. I need a Libman squeegee. I think those are right over here. Not that one, this one. We got a lot of Libman squeegees. Now, Libman squeegee and a towel. You don't need to use necessarily a Libman squeegee, but I do suggest using a squeegee on the back window, because we want to make sure that this is perfectly dry and we've basically taken any little bits of dirt. If you take a rag and you just kind of smear it over, you can clean it, but you'll still have random little bits of dirt scattered throughout your window. So that kind of stuff can help out quite a bit. So again, we're going to take this on this side, we're going to scrub this down. Can you do a review on Tint X? I've been using it for a while, my customers love it. If where your price point's at and your customers love it, then there's not necessarily a need for you to use something better. Everything's got a particular market. So it depends on the film that you're using from them, but it's not something I want to get into right now. What's a good quality tint brand? I like GeoShield. Do you like Avery? Avery's decent. We only used NR though. I don't really recommend anything other than that. Okay, so continuing on with the prep. We have a couple products here that we're gonna use. First up is gonna be Glass Aid. I'm gonna put this around the dot border. Main reason for that is to outline my window, which is nice, not necessarily like a must. I'll do 50-50 here just to kind of show an example. Part of it is to keep the glass safe, and part of it is so I can see an outline. So keeping the glass safe is going to be really the main reason. So I'm going to just put this right on the outside of the dots, and I'll show you guys 1/2 width and 1/2 without, and kind of the, I guess, the pros and cons to even having it on here. Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows here. But this is kind of where I put the tape line. You can see the dots there. So if I cut anywhere on this tape line, I'm still going to be able to see my outline, or I'm going to be able to overlap the window. So even if my knife kind of like swivels a little bit as I'm cutting, and you'll see when we get some tint on here. You'll see when we get some tint on here, if we don't quite like the difference really with seeing for a cut line or not. Okay, so next thing we need, we're gonna be doing the dry shrink method. So I'm gonna take a dryer sheet here. This is just a pack of Snuggle dryer sheets, nothing fancy. You can use whatever medium that you like. There's guys that use soap bars, dry shrink prep. Whatever you use, you're basically gonna apply it very similarly. We're gonna mist the window, and we're gonna take a dryer sheet, kind of rough it up. And then you're just gonna smear that residue all over the window. And we'll kind of explain why we do that as we get started. So this is gonna take a little bit to dry. We could take a heat gun and dry it a little bit faster, but let's check out some questions. 5 and 50 on the front windshield. 50 on the windshield's not too dark. I have it on my own. I do it on families. It's a nice shade. It's probably the most recommended that we get. Okay, I'm gonna change the setting. That's why I don't like it. Commands. Maybe we can change it to a different voice here. Next step. Sorry. I'm also troubleshooting some stuff kind of as we do this, so it's going to be a little bit funky. Are we on Facebook even? How should I shrink the film? That's what we're going to be getting into in just a second here. I'm really not used to looking at this on Facebook. Can you go into detail about heating the tint? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Where can I order quality tint? All the tools and stuff that I'm using, 313tint.com. Okay, I have a lot of issues with creasing. Okay, so the main thing after we do the dryer sheet is we need it to dry. So you can take your finger, you can wipe it across the glass. If you get these little smears, this is still wet. See all this right here? When I do this, little wet marks. So we want to wait just a little bit longer. We're going to take the heat gun. We're going to warm this up a little bit more. Just kind of continue it. It's probably got another 30 seconds worth of dry time on it. All the heavier areas are going to take a little bit, but summertime it'll dry out faster. But we need this to be completely dry. It's going to be one of the most important things. So I'll usually do this, and then I'll go work on something else. So now if I take my hand, run it across here, that's dry. It's no longer leaving these same type of wet lines in there. So we're good. Now we can apply the film to the outside. Does this also apply while doing side windows? No. No, this is specifically for back windows. Let me put you guys here, because this will, where do we want to put it? Okay, we're gonna put the film on. So I'm gonna take my roll. You can cut a piece right out of the box. I'll take it, I'll kind of rest it against my chest here. I'll take a piece out and lay this on the back window. Hold it, and then continue to unroll it straight across. Take a knife, and then we're gonna trim this off. Take your roll, put it aside, put it back in the box. Just get it out of your way. What size roll? This is a 36 by 100 roll of C2 carbon. 36 is going to be enough to cover the majority of your windows. Back windows, doors. For doors, I suggest doing a bit of a shorter size. Camera's going wonky. And then let's get into heat shrinking. You can do a 40 if you want to. It doesn't hurt to go taller. It's just kind of managing your inventory and saving as much money as possible. Yeah, the brand of dryer sheet definitely matters. So I recommend Snuggle. Dryer sheets aren't meant for shrinking. Snuggles just work really well. The type of film that you're using and the type of sheet matters a little bit. So when you get more familiar with it, you could play around with some cheaper ones or different ones. Snuggle, honestly, it's kind of the best of everything. It's one of the cheapest ones, and it works really well. Okay, so for cards, so I like to use shrinking cards. These are the two that I kind of recommend here. Either a felt block, doesn't really matter what shape, or this tri-edge card with a double buffer. There are hard cards, stiffer cards, things that are a little bit less forgiving. This is kind of a nice balance. If you want a little softer, go with a felt block. If you want something kind of in between a hard card, what's nice about this is that you get some added pressure from the plastic card, but you also get some squishiness from this double suede buffer. So first thing we'll do is square up the film. And I'm gonna keep this, we're gonna cut it short from the trunk lid here. And then the top is fine, but we're gonna shorten up the sides a little bit. So to do that, let's start by kind of tacking it right in the middle, and I'll look for a center point. And then we'll go straight across with my card. Kind of like smooth out the film with my hand first, so there's no ripples here. Take a card, drag it. And then for here and here, we want to trim this short. It's a little hard to see since I don't have my glass aid here. So this is a 35% film. So I can still see through, but if this was a darker film, it'd be a little bit harder to see. So we're just gonna trim that shy. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight at all, but I want this to be close to that much wider than the border on average. Like a ½ inch to an inch is perfectly fine. You could go up to 2 inches. I wouldn't really go beyond that for the sides. And then we'll trim this short of the bottom. Couple things that you can use for trimming though. We have a snitty cutter, so this will help protect the paint, or you could just use a knife. I tend to not like dragging a blade right across the glass, so if I am trimming, I'm gonna just pick up the film, cut through, and just kind of like air trim like that. Or we can use a safety cutter, and this works just like a letter opener. And so I can just kind of leave that there, walk over to the other side. And it makes it real easy to just continue my cut. Cuts really, really fast. I don't have to risk damaging anything. So you can do the same thing on the side here. Safety cutter. Honestly, the best option. I just didn't know about these until way later. So we're gonna do the same thing on this side. We're gonna take a card. We're gonna just pull it flat right in the center, and then we're gonna tack it down. So that dryer sheet, you can see it starts holding that film in place there, where it's not gonna move outside where I tack it unless I lift it up. Now it's loose. That's why dryer sheet is really, really nice. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna lightly tack down just the side edges, and we're gonna take all these fingers that were popping out the side, and we're gonna direct them to go out the bottom. You can only shrink film out the top and the bottom. Safety cutter, we sell them. It's called the Snitty. We call it the Snitty safety cutter, S-N-I-T-T-Y. I didn't name it. That's one reason we call it the safety cutter though. But they're largely used in vinyl. They work really well for window tinting. Anywhere around there that you would potentially damage the paint, that's what they're really, really nice for. All right, so I got my heat gun, and we are going to now shrink the film. So shrinking is really easy as long as you pay attention to a couple important rules. Rule number 1, don't shrink out the side edges. So anytime the film does this, we're not gonna shrink out that side. We wanna smooth the film down. There are times we're gonna have to brush something out the side, but we're not gonna shrink out the side. And then rule number 2 is don't really push past an area where you shrunk. Those are like the main reasons why people screw up shrinking the film, really. So let's get this, hopefully at a nice angle where we can see what we're doing. So I'm gonna take my heat gun, put it on high. This is the cheapest Wagner heat gun that you can buy. They're awesome. 45-degree angle. You're gonna leave it about, this is a 5-inch card for reference. So I start about this far away. If you move closer, you're applying more heat, you just gotta move faster. So what you're trying to figure out is the right amount of time and heat, but you'll figure that out as we look for certain things. So we're gonna take the heat gun, 45-degree angle, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat up the film until it does this. These sideways lines. So it goes from this loose material, see how that wiggles? So all of a sudden, we get these little air pockets that pull this way. That's the film settling down and pulling. So those are free and clear to push forward. So if I just firm pressure, be very direct, push forward in the direction that it wants to go. If it's a little ocean wave going into a shoreline, so if it curves this way, we're gonna then push it at that angle. This way, goes straight. And then you just push up to right here. This is where my loose material is. If I keep pushing past that, you start creasing the film and you get these really sharp spikes. We don't like sharp spikes like that. So we're gonna pull the film back up to get back to where we just were. So we had those little sideways lines, right? You push those forward and they kind of disappear into that bunched up film. And then we're gonna get going with our shrink more. Heat gun on high, 45-degree angle in the direction that you're going. What do you use besides soapy water? Not much of anything. If I need to use adhesive remover, I'll use that. I'll use glass cleaner at the very end when I'm shining out my windows, that's it. So again, these sideways lines, push them forward. And that's it. That's the whole tutorial. You keep doing this, even little by little, you can shrink damn near anything. What's that tool? So we're using a heat gun to shrink the film, and then we're using a felt block or a tri-edge card, just some type of card to push and stretch out that film over the back window. It's just waiting for that film to pull sideways. When you see the sideways fingers, that's good. You don't want to keep heating those up. It's an indication that you shrunk the film exactly enough, and then you can push that forward. So I'm going to stop right here in the center point because the glass starts bowing in the other direction. So I could either shrink this corner up here, or I could go and shrink that one down there. So since we're on this side, we might as well just keep shrinking here. I'll show you guys one major thing that a lot of people mess up on top corners. So we're going to take the heat gun, 45-degree angle. Get those to go sideways. So as soon as they turn into this versus this, see all this loose material? We don't want to try and crunch that down. That's where you're going to get a crease. Where you're not going to get a crease is whenever you see the film like this, just be very intentional. Start at the most outside point of it, push up, and then right here, the film starts to do like a little swoopy over here. You see how it starts to curve? So I want to match my card with that curve. And I want to do that until that basically goes away. So on this top corner, it basically just went out there. We readjusted this a little bit by doing that, which is good because it makes this go a little bit flatter. And we're going to take our heat gun. Little sideways waves. We threw our card on the floor. We'll use the other one. Just push that film up. You're just taking it more from the center here and just stretching it out over the window as you shrink it. So heat gun does one thing, and that's shrink the film, and then the card rearranges. And organizes everything. Oh, that's annoying. Again. So this right here, a lot of people will take something like this and they're going to try and push that back. So they're going to take this and try and like push it back this way. That's going to mess up my film. I want to keep running this out of the corner. So I could even lift this corner a little bit, take that swoop, pull it out, smooth down right here. Come on, there we go. Flatten that out, and then we can continue. Those top corners is where a lot of people end up messing up. But you can take a little bit of film and readjust your corner, and that makes this whole top area flat. Now for the very edges, when there's a lot of film to shrink, it usually doesn't shrink all that quickly, but we're waiting for the same thing to happen. Film pulls tighter and tighter until eventually it does that. And then that's okay to push it forward. Only when that happens is it ever okay to just push the film forward. Most people take their heat gun, throw a little heat on it, and then see it wiggle a little bit and think that they shrunk it and then try and cram it down. You always have to wait for it to pull sideways. Chat's still being, I appreciate everybody here. Chat's still being weird on my end, which is not what I wanted to see. So we're gonna change, I'm gonna change something really quick here. How do we change the voice? TTS. Oh, there we go. Let me change the voice back. All right, we'll try that. Jetta hatchback windows. I've got a video on a Jetta hatchback on my channel that you can definitely check out. Hatchback windows are gonna follow the exact same thing though. They're just a little bit different shape. Some are a little bit more curved at the top or the bottom corners. Same rules apply. It's probably the most important thing to remember is like your film along the sides. So all this, like you just need to ensure that you don't shrink the very side edge. So you shrink up to that, but all this can be shrunk. So you start 45, heat it until you see the film do that. Then you can push that forward. Make sure that side edge is locked down so you're not shrinking out the side. And then you just go on to the next little bit with a heat gun. It's just this like over and over again. A little bit there. Push it forward. Just remember those. So you could spend a lot of time doing this, but as soon as those rules start to click, then you can just increase your speed. You can increase your heat, you increase your speed, put the heat gun a little bit closer, and then it's really like as hot as the heat gun gets, then becomes what holds you back. So then you could grab a torch even and try and shrink that way. Move that forward. So I got these little fingers right here at the bottom. Those are going to take an extra blast of heat, just a little bit more time to get those to settle. And then this gets pushed forward. All right, I got to restart my chat software because it's being dumb. I have the same Furno 500. I have the even cheaper one. Any of the Wagner heat guns are great. Some Harbor Freight ones are fine too, but the Wagners, what's nice is they work really well and you can find them like anywhere. They used to be like 20 bucks. Now they're a little bit more than that. I think they're like 30 or near 30. Stream is offline for Facebook. It shouldn't be. Okay. How would you recommend quoting C2 carbon? Interesting question. I'll just tell you what we usually charge. So if we're doing the sides and the rear, we'll do $350 for C2. And then if it's like a full with a windshield, we'll charge $550. My biggest fear is melting the film. It's okay to have those types of concerns. Like, you don't really know how much you can push film until you do stuff like that. So I always suggest going in with a little bit of like artificial confidence. So this loose material here, this all needs to be shrunk. So pretend you don't know, or okay, so you don't know how to shrink. So what I'm gonna do here, turn the heat gun to high, and I'm just gonna get it within 3 or 4 inches just for a second or two and work back and forth. And then I'm gonna look and see what the film does. So let's do that. Heat gun on high. We can get in a little closer. So we're gonna take the heat gun, just go back and forth a little closer. We're gonna see what the film does. We have a slight sideways finger here, not much, but also the film is continuing to shrink just a little more because we got it so hot. So this is a little light, but it's pretty close. Let's just do the same thing we just did again. Within like an inch or two, just move back and forth pretty quick. Now we're starting to see those lines. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. Then you just take that, and then you just push that up into the next little area. Then you take your heat gun, just do the same thing again. Just go back and forth within like 2 or 3 inches and just see what happens. This section, this looks great. Push this up. So when you're holding the heat gun a little farther away, you're just putting less heat on it, and you're allowing more time for that film to kind of heat up and settle down. So that's why I suggest like 4 or 5 inches away. It's just gonna give you a little bit more time to gradually see that film kind of like settle in. But again, we're getting that little sideways swoop here. These things, top corners, pay attention to those. Don't take those and try and brush them inwards. We're gonna take it and swoop it out this way. So match your card like that. So for here, we're gonna push those up. For this is gonna go right out the side. Straighten out that corner. And then we'll continue with the next little stretch here. But yeah, after all the classes that we've taught here, people approach it in a couple different ways. The biggest things that I'll see is don't be scared of creasing it when you see the film like this. Most people are gonna press it just a little soft and gradually like push it. Just be very, like, push harder on the glass, push up to where the end of your shrink is. And then even if you go a little farther, just watch out for these sharp little fingers right here. So the sharp little ones, that means I need to shrink my film even more. Like that, and then push this up. Ta-da! As soon as we're past our line, a little bit right here would be good. As soon as we're past our line, we're good. So then we can take our knife. So I'm gonna use a stainless steel knife for all the trimming. I'm gonna put out extra blade here, just so I can get a nice low angle on the glass. That's gonna be the main thing. So nice low angle, cut right in the center of the tape, drag that right around. So like I said, I'm gonna shoot for the middle, but if I cut anywhere on this tape, I'm not gonna get a gap. See, you can just take that, peel it away. So that's why I really like the tape. It does two things. It helps protect the glass. Glass aid helps protect the glass, and it also is very easy to see when I'm making my cutouts in most percentages. So the application time takes a little bit of time. That's not super fun, but I originally started using this to help keep all my glass safe because I just don't want to start dragging a metal blade across the window, scratch it, and then that's an expensive fix. Basically lose any money that you would have made on a job. I gotta change this voice again. It is working though. Commands. That match. Homie sales it. Let's try Joey here. There we go. If you drive at night a lot, I recommend light, or do you lighter tint? Well, if it's harder to see outside, it's an okay voice. Sorry, what were we saying? Yeah, if you're driving at night and you tint your windows really dark, 5% is going to block out 95% of the light. It's going to be harder to see. During the daytime, it's usually not a problem. It's always like cloudy, rainy, rough conditions. That's where darker shades are always going to make it a little bit tougher to see through. Okay, so we have a light here. So I really like small stick lights. These get very bright. Here. So what's nice about this is I can shine this through. And I can bounce this right off of the deck lid, and I can still see those dots without necessarily having to put this light in there. So that's one nice thing about using a really bright stick light. You just put it really close to the glass like that. So if I'm not using glass aid, I'm gonna have my knife still out about that far, just like anywhere from like here to here, so you can get like a nice low angle to the window. And then we're just gonna trim right along the dots, just on the outside. And I'll zoom in and show you guys kind of where we're gonna make that cut to. Yeah, this one's from Harbor Freight. This is the Icon, an Icon branded light. Really, really nice light. Pretty inexpensive. So my cut is right in there. So you can see those dots, and you can see the edge of my film. I'm just going a little past an 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, doesn't really matter in most cases. Trying to stay about an 1/8 is usually more helpful than not, because you're just trying to give yourself a little wiggle room. So when you place that tint in there, if it's a little over to the left, a little over to the right, doesn't really matter, as long as you can make that cut and cover your edges is the goal. I figured out I don't know what is causing my chat issues, but I know the issue that's happening, and it's really annoying. That tape, I believe, is a 1/4. Yes. It's not just vinyl tape. So pinstriping is really, really thin. This stuff is very, very thick. This is a 10 mil tape. Pinstriping's existed for a very long time. So you can find 1/4 inch pinstriping, but it's like super thin. It's like 3 mils. This is triple plus a little bit more than any pinstriping is. So that's why I like using that versus pinstriping is gonna give me a border, which is nice. It's just when you cut through it, you might damage the glass. So, but something's better than nothing. What do you use to stick the tint to the outside of the window? So we have dryer sheet under here. We're just doing that for shrinking. For the rest of this cut, if I'm not using that tape line, I can just reach my light in here on the top portions and just make that cut. And then make this cut. Right like that. Okay, now that I've got this all cut, we can remove the tape line. Here. It's a little bit funny with this, but we can remove our tape line. Do you recommend buying what? At what point? At what point do you recommend buying a plotter? It's really just a money issue. So as soon as you have money to get a plotter, it can be worth getting a plotter. Plotters are cut assistants. So imagine you just hired a really, really cheap employee. And you can have that cheap employee cut out patterns for you. You still need to weed them. You still need to shrink them. And just know that that cheap employee doesn't always get your patterns perfect. So sometimes you have to do adjustments in the software. Sometimes you have to hand cut things. But basically, that's a way to look at a plotter. So you can buy it at any point in time. As soon as you think that it's kind of going to pay for itself, it can be worth it. Are you in Detroit? Yeah, Sterling Heights. Okay, so installation. I was going to change out my tank. Should we do a reverse roll? I think we should probably do a reverse roll then. So we're going to tack this down. We're all good to go. After I do my trimming, one thing that I almost forgot to point out is I'm going to take my heat gun. I'm just going to go along the top and bottom edges just a little bit. You notice this isn't necessarily the best for this. Sorry. It's also getting used to vertical versus wide. So we're going to take our heat gun. I'm going to run it just along the very bottom edge of the window, and I'm going to check for additional fingers. So just really, really small stuff that might pop up. A small finger that you can get to pop up with a heat gun on the outside is going to be a small finger that might pop up on the inside that you would have to heat out later. So the earlier that you can do that before you get it installed, the better. So it disc. Okay, so we're gonna take our film and let's just put it on the glass board for now. And then we'll go over some quick cleaning tips on the inside. Hi. So usually I do this right off the back window. You can also do it off of a glass board if you have one. I always overheat it when I do that last step. How do you not overheat it? I don't know. You're getting the film, you're getting the heat gun within an inch or two of the glass just for like a second. So just give it a little blast of heat right at the very end. You shouldn't sit there for more than a second or two if the heat gun's really, really close though. Okay, so let's squeegee this off so you can kind of see the inside. What kind of film? So we're using GeoShield C2 carbon, but any film can burn, any film can crease, just because it's, like Geo's it's a lot more user-friendly for shrinking, but that doesn't necessarily just mean that it's just easy to use. But any film that I'm gonna get is gonna take those same rules. Maybe it's the film. I'm using Avery Dennison Nano Ceramic. Don't use that one. Shit. Where'd you buy it from? 44 Tools? Okay, so if we're getting into a little bit more manufacturing and stuff like that, I actually used Avery for a little while. They don't have their shit together when it comes to carbon or ceramic. They are manufactured out of Israel, and they made good dyed film, and they made a hybrid film called Sigma Pro that's now called Avery NR Pro, and that it was like a dyed carbon hybrid, which didn't make much sense. And then they had a ceramic. Their ceramic was always hazy. They're just behind on that kind of technology. So if you're going to use anything from Avery, use their NR, and that's it. What film can I buy to practice? If you go on Amazon, you can get a roll of, just look for like cheap dyed films. You can practice with cheap dyed films. So T-View is a cheap dyed film. Cheap carbon films are not user-friendly. Those kind of suck. I wouldn't do that. Okay, so I'm gonna hop in here and we're gonna clean up the inside of this back window. See, you can see in there real nice. This is our tint class car. So this has already been cleaned like a whole bunch. So I'm gonna go through and just squeegee this top to bottom. You could take a clay bar, run it over the defroster lines. That would be nice. Or a scrub pad over the defroster lines is nice too as well. But we're gonna squeegee top to bottom. Just kind of move everything from one side with overlapping strokes. We're gonna get down to the bottom, but all of a sudden I can't fit my squeegee all the way at the bottom. So I need to get RIP audio, a couple squeegees, bulldozer, tail fin, and a side swipe. There's also an honorable mention, which is a stroke doctor. These are my go-tos though. So we're mainly gonna use these two. Razor to the defrosters, don't do that. Don't take a razor blade to the defrosters. Let me sweep this off one more time. So we're gonna squeegee this top to bottom. How do you not bring trash in from the sides when squeegeeing left to right? Good question. When I'm squeegeeing, one thing that I'm doing is swiping my squeegee off in between passes. So let's back up down here. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'll start at a topward, like, so if I'm going from this side, I'm gonna start from here, kind of swoop down, and then go straight over. So it's almost like a down and over type of pass. How did you start a window tinting business? I've been doing video for a really long time. I was doing mobile at the time for other companies, not tint companies, but other companies. And I treated this shop like a mobile account. So saved up enough money, put a down payment on a lease, and then got listed on Google Maps, that kind of stuff. And I would continue to make money at my mobile accounts and then keep a handful of appointments here while I was trying to basically build up more customers. All right, so we're sweeping. We're going down to the very bottom here. We can only reach so far. This is gonna be the cleanest back window ever. And then I'm gonna use a side swipe whenever there's not a brake light kind of in the way. So I can take this and sweep all the way over, just like that. That was a little rough right there. Right like that. You can also take a bulldozer. Bulldozers are better when you have the third brake lights in the way, but you can take this and do this. Squeegee down and kind of like out at an angle there. Tail fins, I'll use this for installation, but I'll use these in the lower corners like that. Did you ever tint outside? Don't tint outside. Tinting outside sucks by like a lot. Okay, so now we're gonna take our pattern, we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it back on the car. So if I was tinting this off of a glass board, I would just pull it off a glass board. There's no reason to put it back on the car. But I'm assuming that you are tinting in a way that you do not have a glass board. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it back on the outside, and we're gonna go through a reverse rolling process which has more steps, but is gonna make it a little bit easier to understand and do. And then I'll show you guys real quick how I typically do back windows. But this method I'm gonna do for like every front windshield. Oh, this is interesting. Thank you. Best cheap glass board, Marketplace. You can get a lot of cheap glass off of Marketplace. Do you like nano ceramic or regular ceramic? There's no difference. Nano just means small. So somebody's nano ceramic versus somebody's ceramic, it's just what they decided to call it for breakfast that morning. There's no difference. Marketing, marketing, marketing. Okay, so for this, let's get this camera. What's good information for starting up a business in this field? Watch as many people as you can. Just try and learn a lot about tinting. It's not just a quick, easy thing to get into. Learning how to tint is one thing, and then treating it like a business is something else. All right, so we're gonna start with the reverse rolling process. Let me grab a towel. We're gonna wipe off the outside. So I'm going to start with this side. Now, the goal of this is just to loosen up the liner. So I'm going to start with the top corner. Was it hard finding a garage? Yeah, there weren't a lot available. LoopNet was pretty good for that, though. LoopNet or classified ads. And then we're going to pull up this and go halfway over. And then we're going to put this back down. Same thing with this side. Just put it right back down, basically the way that you picked it up. And then, so for this side, is that this side? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That didn't turn out quite as good as what I wanted. Things are a little mirrored on my phone, so there we go. So we're gonna take that, drag it over about halfway. Is it healthy to breathe window cleaner all day? This is just light soapy water, but probably just take a good whiff of it, like, you're like, just before we get going. Just wakes you up. All right, now we're gonna take this and we're gonna roll it up. So first side rolled up is the last side that is unrolled. So I'm gonna start here on the passenger side. Let me get this following me again. Okay, so I'm gonna start here on the passenger side. And I'm just gonna start rolling up this corner. Do you have any specific ceramic recommendations? I mean, I use GeoShield. I like them. And then just continue to roll this up. When you get about halfway, you can just pick it up right off of the glass and then continue to roll this up. How's it following you? Magic. In kind of an annoying way because it only stops when you like click a button. So it's good, and then all of a sudden it's not. So let me wipe this off so you're gonna be able to see the inside a little bit better. And we'll lock off the camera so it'll kind of show things. Rip. That's what I get for setting all my stuff right there. All right, so for this part, we're gonna take our sprayer. We're gonna spritz the inside here. This is all cleaned, ready to go. And then for this part, this is the most important part of the reverse roll. You play it like a flute. So we're gonna take our liner. There. And then we're gonna take that liner and push it against the roll, and then we're gonna unroll it. So the liner is sticking to the roll. You can see the liner right there. Still like, it's like a couple inches in. But when I do this, it's just exposed window tint now. So we're gonna start with installing this. We can just take it and we can just bring it into the car here. So I'm gonna take this already unrolled part and I'm gonna tuck this right there. Just get it as low on the window that I can. And then get this left side up on the glass. And I shimmy this where it needs to go. And then once you get it mostly in place, you can just start unrolling it. Now what makes this difficult is if you have third brake lights and other crap in the way. But if you don't have that kind of stuff in the way, reverse rolling is a super easy way to do this. Once I get about halfway, I'm gonna grab my liner, I'm gonna pull that. I'm just gonna use that to help unroll the rest of my window. Pull out my liner, and then tuck this right on the glass. Then we're gonna take a squeegee blade, like this squeegee blade right here. We're gonna start from the center. We're gonna start pushing all our bubbles out. Going from the center and working your way out is really, really important. Now remember, I can't reach the very bottom there. So we're gonna get things basically pushed up to the bottom, and then we're gonna go back with one of our reach tools and press that down and out. Does the soap leave residue under the tint? No. So now we're gonna take our side swipe. I could start here in the middle if I want. Press all that out. Go in the other direction. You don't necessarily have to start in the middle and work your way out, but we just took that, pressed that down, and then there you go. You got a nicely tinted back window. Bye. Ta-da. So I'll show you guys one more extra thing here. If I were to do this the Frankenstein method, let's put this back on. So this is what we'll recommend at our classes. If you are if you are learning Frankenstein, so Frankenstein basically means you're gonna take the whole pattern and you're just gonna carry it to the inside of the vehicle. If you're doing that way, you can first take a pattern that you reverse rolled, pull it off, put it on the outside. And then we're just gonna pick this back up and then try this. So you can do this on a glass board. You can do it off of the car. If you just cut and shrink everything and you're ready to go, it's easy just to go from this position to carrying it. But what we need to do is you're gonna take it, you're gonna make sure your tint is sprayed. That's step number one. Liner peeled, tint sprayed. Then you're gonna pick it up, lift it, and you're gonna pull it right off the glass and you're gonna catch it, right like that. And you get to bobble it so it's right like this. And then you take this and you carry it to the inside of the window. So if you have some type of glass board, so if you're in a garage or whatever, you could set your tint up on the board. You could peel it, spray it, and then you could lift it off and basically get it into that same position without having to throw it across the back window. Or you could even try and put it at a slightly more convenient spot rather than doing this. But you'll take your pattern, you'll carry it to the inside of the car, and then that's where it loses me, right? Does it still see me? That would be cool. Take this, we're going on the inside here, set it as low as you can on the back window. We didn't even spray our back window. And then you're gonna slide this down and shift it in place. Oh, camera. Oh, camera. 1 second. We got it where it needs to go. Let me turn this. Does the Frankenstein method ever result in any damage to the film? Oh yeah, you can definitely mess it up. So, let me pull this and back up a little bit. And then so you get in the car and you try and just get it as low as you can on that deck lid. And then you're gonna slide it down and then put some film back up on the window and then continue to slide this down. The part that people worry about the most with the Frankenstein method more chance of hairs and dirt. That's what people worry about the most. To be honest, it's such a clean way of doing it because you're not reintroducing anything to the film. It's just learning how to handle it. So if you take it and brush it along the inside of a door frame or something, then yeah, you're gonna get a bunch of dirt in it. But if you can just take it, carry it in, and not touch all the panels, which isn't that hard, then you can get a really, really clean result. But we would take that, we would squeegee it out, and then check it over. But I suggest doing that over and over with just one piece of film, and then get used to the motions before, you know, trying to shrink a window 50 times. Ooh. TikTok. Why did, Instagram stop? This is always interesting. Whenever you stream something for like an hour, it's when you put it through like breaking things. So we're streaming right now on TikTok. We were on Instagram, but Instagram stopped for some reason. And then we're also on YouTube. I feel like we're probably gonna ignore Instagram. And then I think we're in the Facebook group too, but I don't understand Facebook. Like my own tint group on Facebook. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much been dead like this whole time. Let me see. Such a pointless activity. I know. We'll just pack it up. That's it. We're done, son. Such a point. Oh, you guys should hear the voice that's reading right now. Do you clean up the soapy solution when you're done installing the tint? Yes. You ideally don't want to get a bunch of overspray everywhere. So we just went through a couple of examples, but you could do that once on most vehicles.
Use a towel or soap rope when doing back windows.
Nice. You guys hear that voice? It was like such a pointless activity. Ugh. Use a towel or a soak rope when doing a back window. I'll throw a towel sometimes over the rear seats and maybe a little bit on the deck lid. It's harder.
How did you start, bro?
How did you start, bro? I'll throw a towel over like part of the deck, cover up some speakers if I need to, but the back window isn't as important to cover up as the as the dash. What should you do if you see dust under the film? You're going to want to start over. You can sometimes clean out just a little bit. So if you had a bigger speck or a hair, you can sometimes wash that out. Other than that, you got to start over. Very hard for any dirt, contaminants, that kind of stuff. I started getting good at tint and then posting my work on Facebook and Instagram account. Nice. That's a good way to start getting work. The more people that you can let know about it, the better. Okay, we'll full screen that. There, that's better. Alrighty. Well, I did this for a couple of reasons, to do some back window stuff. We'll do another session here. We got hatchbacks, we got windshields, we got all types of stuff. But I also wanted to do another streaming test. And it seems to have a couple of issues. So we'll stop that. So thanks for hanging out today. We'll do another one of these sooner or later. Very soon, actually. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow we got a full car to do. So we got most of the streaming stuff figured out. So we'll go live with that. This was fire. Much appreciated. Thanks. I appreciate you. A lot of good people in here and comments and stuff. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.